welcome to my studio. I'm excited to show you our new silicone mold line, and this is a lot of fun. We've got hundreds of molds for you. There's all kinds of fun things. One of our most popular is a dragonfly. We've got the butterfly. We've got the lizard. I've got the lizard over here on our gourd, which gives you a lot of fun options to do with that, as well as kind of our southwest ones, which I really love. I've got the big and little conchos, and we're going to show you the necklace on those. And we will do videos on each of the projects. So this is just made totally out of clay. Isn't that awesome? I have to look at it to make sure it's not silver myself. And we've also done the earrings to match with that. So that's a lot of fun. As well as something as simple as a shell. And I put in the little mermaid with the scallop, and I also use a little seahorse in that one, and that turned out really sweet. I think that's just a real fun kind of magical necklace there. And one of my favorites is the Indian chief, and I'll show you a couple of different examples of him. He's a nice deep mold, and he's easy to use, and we'll talk about easier molds, starting with easier molds, but he's a real easy mold to use, but he's got a lot of great detail in that. So I really enjoyed that, and I don't do enough masculine things. I've had men ask me for masculine stuff, so that's kind of a masculine look, so that's a lot of fun as well. Here's another look at the Indian chief, and to me it was kind of square and didn't fit as well as I like, so I added a couple little feathers out to that, and it just totally made that whole piece pop, and that was a lot of fun. We've got the buffalo with the Saguaros, and I turned that into an ornament. Wouldn't that be fun year-round, but also at Christmas time if you've got somebody that's really into the Southwest item. As well as a different look at our concho here, we turned this into a key ring. The acorns is another one of my favorite molds. It's really fun and cute, and I made earrings as well as a pin out of those, and I'm going to do one in the fall with leaves. It would be really cute as well, and that's a really fun project, and I really like that. But also think about wood items. You could also put it in a frame. You could put it on a frame. There's all kinds of fun things that you can do with the molds. Don't just get stuck thinking on gourds or gourds related project. There's nothing wrong with that, but don't limit yourself. A lot of you have been asking what all you can do with the molds, so I want to kind of give you an idea. First of all of them are food grade quality, and that also means that you can heat them up to 400 degrees. So there's a lot you can do with that. Think about the fondant, the mints, different things like that, as well as using them with wax and candles. You can use a polymer clay, the air dry clay, any type of clay. I also used the silicone and put it right in there. It just takes a long time for that to dry. And of course you all know my favorite, which is going to be the QuikWood, and that's what I'm going to be doing a lot of mine with, is the QuikWood, and we'll talk a little bit about that more in a moment. The Mod Podge melts are really a fun item. These are kind of a newer item out by Mod Podge, and they're kind of a plastic, and they work well in the molds, and they heat up, and you can put those right into the molds. And I am going to have some videos out on how to do this coloring technique that I've come up with, so those are a lot of fun as well. So don't be limited to what you can do, what you put them on, whether it be paper, cardboard, wood. Just think of outside the box and try not to limit yourself on that. I want to show you, though, how I kind of use them with the QuikWood, and we're going to talk about the QuikWood a little bit here. And of course, when we're working with QuikWood, the first thing I'm going to do is remove my jewelry, because QuikWood is rock hard. Rock hard even means in your jewelry in an hour. QuikWood is 2 parts epoxy And it's already pre-done for you here. If you open that up, you can see you've got the two parts there, the light and the dark. So all you're going to do is knead that together and you will have that ready to go. Now when you first start working with the clay, I really suggest that you start with an easier one where there's not a lot of detail in the mold. Now we have the buffalo and the longhorn, and actually those are not too bad at all, but if you get into the little tiny one like with the lizard in its legs, it's a little bit harder. So we want to kind of start with a little simpler one till you kind of get used to working with the clay. And we do have a video on how to put the lizard onto your gourd, as well as any other item you wanted to put that onto. It just shows you how to do that. So I'm going to start by spraying my hands, and I'm going to use a vegetable spray, and that is so that my hand does not stick to the QuikWood. The first thing you want to do is peel off that little silver circle and cut off the amount of QuikWood you want. And some of the molds it takes a little bit more, some of it takes a little bit less, and I'm kind of getting down to the end here. But always put that back on and put it back into your container to keep it fresh. And it should stay, they say fresh 2 to 3 years. That's what they recommend. It stays better a lot longer than that. So I'm going to take my vegetable oil and I'm also going to put it into my mold. There's different people that use different things for release. There's a special spray that's called a clay release that you can spray in that. I personally like the vegetable oil, and some people even use a spritz of water, so that's kind of up to you. So I'm going to knead my QuikWood now, and that's what activates it. And you can see the different colors there. And I can't tell you how many times I've had people that'll send me an email and say their QuikWood didn't harden up. Well, you didn't knead it, or you didn't knead it long enough. It's got to be one solid color. It's got to be warm to the touch. So we want to make sure that we knead that really well where we don't see any of the colors. And it's warm to the touch. And you're probably going to have to spray a little bit more vegetable oil on. We're going to zoom in here just a little bit, and I want you to see how this is just a tad rough. The clay's not real smooth as it could be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fingers and I'm just going to dip them into water, and that's just enough moisture to make that work well and smooth that down. If you think you need some more, then go ahead and do some more. Once we've rolled it up into a ball, we're going to stick it in, and you want that almost all the way to the top. And then I'm going to take my napkin and remove any of the oil off the top so that it does not have any oil when I go to put it onto a gourd piece. And then we're going to push gently on that piece. I shouldn't say gently, you can push a little bit harder. And depending on your piece and how detailed it is too. Now that one came out pretty good. I slipped a little bit. Now you can either take it off and do it again, or you can cut this part off with your hobby knife. There is no right or wrong on that, whatever method you decide that you would like to use. Now we're going to go ahead and show you, now you see that one we kind of did out. If you wanted to leave it in and let it dry, you could leave it in. Just make sure that it is all in from the side. Your sides are nice and clean. And then when you pop it out, like this guy here, if you have any edges that are a little bit rough, you can come in and then just finely sand those and take those right down, and then that'll clean that right up. I'll show you another one real quick. Here is an acorn, and when you're working with these and you're going to apply them onto a gourd, you do not want to have any above the top of the mold. So you're going to slide that off. So there should not be any above the top. I've got just a little bit too much out of that. So we've got that on there. But that excess comes with any of that that's over the top of that as well. So go ahead and push that down. And that one came out really, really nice there. So another thing that you can do is if you wanted to have a flat item, especially if it was harder to get out, we'll do a longhorn here. And I'm going to start, we want some real fine ones to get into those horns. Remember, we don't want the lines. We want to make sure that it's nice and smooth. And see how I press him out? We've got that all nicely done there. And you can take tape and put that on there to get that mold out. And I need to remove my oil just a little bit here. And your tape should be nice and sticky. And push that down. And he'll start to come out in a minute here. This is a little bit tougher one because he's got the horns and everything, but then you have him right there. And lay that flat for him to dry, and then you will have that shape. And then you can see where I smeared him just a little bit. Just take that and clean that off with your hobby knife as well, but then you can lay him flat to dry. And that way, if you were doing like the concha necklace, you could do one after another, and you're not holding up your mold while you're continuing to let that dry. A lot of people have asked me that they may have had problems with the mold coming, or excuse me, the QuikWood or the item coming off of the project later on. I did all my lizards and I only had one come off on me. But the one thing that I will say, now like this guy I've used quite a bit already, so he may be starting to get dry. The wetter he is, the better they stay on, but don't be afraid to redo them. So if you had one that you was, the QuikWood was starting to get a little bit dry on you, come in, or if you want to do it just to be secure about it, come in and put a little bit of E6000 either on the back part of the mold or the area you want to put the mold onto. Either one of those is a good idea. So, let's see if I can get this guy off here. There we go. I put my concha on and I cleaned it off with my hobby knife. Now we've got the glue underneath. If you didn't like it, take it off. Wipe the glue to the best of the ability. You can put it back onto the item you're putting it on, or back on the back side of the QuikWood. Either one would work, but you can mix it back in. Don't worry about it ruining the consistency. I've done that several times. I've done it 3 or 4 times when I didn't like an item with the glue and it still turns out fine. Now take your extra and use into a smaller mold, and don't let it go to waste. And this is that little dragonfly, and you'd be surprised how little of QuikWood it's going to use. The dragonfly, the lizard, the butterfly hardly take any at all to fill them up. So those are little ones that if you have just a little bit left over, you can do that. Now see how I'm kind of just moving that around, making sure your edges are clean, making sure all of that is inside. And I'm going to leave this guy inside to go ahead and completely dry, and I'll pull him out later. What I wanted to show on this guy, I'm going to show you some ways to color them now. Excuse me, I'm going to be using Pearl X. And Pearl X is a pigment powder. And I'm going to come in, first of all, with a darker color here, and always tap it out in your lid. And I'm going to try to get in between all of these, and you can use this while this is still wet. Now remember, it is still kind of movable as well, so we don't want to push very hard with our brushes. You just kind of want to get the pigment powder on, and you don't want to manipulate the clay at all. So we're going to get that on there, and I'm going to come in with another color, and I'm going to use kind of a turquoise color here, and I want to just put some on that. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of the lighter kind of silver, just, it's almost got a sparkle to it, just here and there, not too much. So there's all kinds of ways that you can color that. You can remove this with a Q-tip or a little bit of a damp brush. When you're applying your QuikWood onto an item, don't varnish it first. Get it ready, then put your QuikWood item onto it, color it, and then varnish. That's another reason that it may fall off on you if you didn't do that first. And you can either brush them or do them by hand. You've got 30 minutes workable time. It's rock hard in an hour, so we've got 30 minutes to kind of shape and do that. Now, one of my favorite ways to also do the molds or the QuikWood after I've got them done is to simply paint them with acrylic paint. Mod Podge has come up with some brushes, some detail brushes. They're really small quality brushes, so you can get in there and do that fine detail work. There's 10 different sizes. We've carrying those for you now at MiriamJoy.com as well. So you can paint the details on with your brushes. So I've base coated this little feather guy here, and then one of my favorite things to do is just to pick up the detail, and I did this on the Indian and also my conchos as well. This is called Inca Gold, and you can find it on the internet. I picked mine up at Joann's. It is a wax-based product, and what happens is when you rub it on the top like that, it's going to pick up the high ridges, and you're going to just get the details. So I really, really like that. I think that's so much fun, and I'm doing so many of my molds with just that method. Isn't that really neat how that just picked that right up? And so I've got different colors of those, and you can come in and do the bottom a little bit different or the back or whatever you want, but I think that's a lot of fun. You also can add the food coloring right into your QuikWood when you're kneading it, and that kind of colors it so you don't have to paint it. That's another way of doing that as well. So we try to give you a whole bunch of ideas, different ways to use it, different ways to use the QuikWood. We also carry the QuikWood, the molds, the brushes, a lot of the items at MiriamJoy.com, so make sure you come over there and check those out. With the vegetable oil, you'll also find that starts to pick up things like I've got glitter and all kinds of stuff. So it's easy enough to clean them. Just take them to your sink and clean them out with your dish soap. Also, our craft sponge makes them really easy to get down in there, and it's not going to hurt them because it's nice and soft, and then you can clean those out really, really well. So that's another suggestion. If there's a mold that you don't see that you would like, a certain shape or design or animal, please send us a message at art@MiriamJoy.com. I hope you have as much fun with these molds as I am. Look forward to lots of new videos showing you how to use different molds as we go along. Thank you so much for joining me today. God bless.